Today I'm going to show you a really simple and straightforward tool for authentication in Next.js. The name of the tool is Kinde. We can also use it with other languages and frameworks, but in this tutorial I'm going to show you how we can use it with Next.js and App Router. Hello and welcome to Sakura Dev channel, and without further ado, let's get into it. So as a first step, we need to go to the kinde.com, and here I click on the start for free, and then I'm going to sign in with my Google account, so I click on the continue with Google. Obviously, if it's the first time you are signing in into the kinde.com with your Google account, you need to choose your Google account. Okay, so after signing, we are redirected into the admin panel, and here I'm going to click on the settings here. Here, as you can see, we can enter a business name, which will be the name of our web application. I'm going to go ahead with the Sakura Dev, and you can enter your phone number, email, and also other information of your web application. Okay, after that, I'm going to click on the applications here. Since we are using the Next.js, we need to click on the backend app. And then here, I'm going to choose the Next.js as a language or framework of our application. And it gives us an ID, a domain, client ID, and also a client secret. And here we need to add the allowed callback URLs, which in this case is the web address of our application, and then API auth Kinde_callback. In the allowed logout redirect URLs, we need to pass the web address of our application, which in this case is the address of the homepage of our web application. And then finally, I'm going to click on the save button here. And now we can go ahead into the VS Code and create our Next.js application. Okay, I open up a brand new Next.js version 13 project, and as a first step, we need to install the Kinde Auth for Next.js. So I go back to the kinde.com, and here inside the application page where we created our backend app with Next.js, I'm going to click on the Next.js docs here, and then copy the script for installing the Kinde Auth for Next.js. So I copy that and go back to our VS Code, open up a terminal, and paste the script for installing the Kinde Auth for Next.js. Okay, and then we need to create a .env file for storing our environmental variables. So I'm going to create a .env file in the root path of our project, and then go back to the Kinde Auth documentation for Next.js and copy the environmental variables that we need to store in our .env file. So I paste them here inside the env file, and then I go back to the kinde.com, and here inside the application page and in the app keys section, first we need to copy the domain here, and then go back to our env file and paste it for the Kinde URL. Then go back to the Kinde application, copy the client ID, paste that in the Kinde client ID, and then copy the client secret and paste it in front of the Kinde client secret. And then I leave the last three variables unchanged. So this is the URL of our web application. Since we are running our application in the development mode, we need to add the HTTP localhost 3000. The logout redirect URL is the address of our homepage, and the login redirect URL is the address of our dashboard or admin panel. Actually, it's the address of the page that the user is redirected into that after the user signing into our application. Okay, let's save the env file. And in the next step, we need to create the API endpoint for the Kinde Auth. It's kind of like the next-auth. So I go to the app directory and create a path here. I'm going to create an API directory, and then inside it create an auth directory, and then inside it I'm going to create a dynamic route for the Kinde Auth, square brackets, and inside it I'm going to say Kinde Auth. Then inside that directory, I'm going to create the route.es. So it will be the dynamic route handler for the Kinde Auth. Okay, I go back to the documentation here and then copy the code for the API endpoint for the Kinde Auth. So here I just paste that, and here we have two types error here. So in order to fix this, set the type of the request to any, and then create an inline interface for the params, which has the params inside it, and its type is any. So it will fix the types error of the Kinde Auth API handler. So let's save this And now we can use the functionalities of the Kinde Auth in our Next.js application. And as you can see, it's really simple to configure the API endpoint for the Kinde Auth. So now let's go ahead and create dashboard page in our application that we are going to protect it from unauthenticated user. So inside the app directory, I'm going to create a directory called dashboard, and then inside it, I'm going to create the page.tsx for it. For now, just create a functional component here, and let's rename it to the dashboard page. Okay, so let's save this, and now let's quickly create an app bar for our application. So in the source directory, side by side of the app directory, I'm going to create a directory called components, and then inside it, I'm going to create a component for the app bar. So I'm going to say app bar.tsx, then create a functional component here. And to speed up the process, I just paste the JSX for the app bar, and let's import the links from the next/link. And as you can see, we have a header element with bunch of Tailwind CSS classes, and then we have two links here. The first one is for the homepage, and the second is for the dashboard page. Okay, and now we just need to use the app bar inside the root layout of our application. So here inside the body section and above the children of the layout, we use the app bar components. Okay, let's save this and run our application. So as you can see, we have a home page and a dashboard. In the next step, we need to add a sign in button here. So when the user is not logged in into our application, he or she can click on the sign in button to be able to log in into our application. So let's go back to the VS Code, and here inside the component, I'm going to create another component for the sign in button. I'm going to say sign in button.tsx and create a functional component. Okay, and then create an interface for the props of this component. I'm going to say interface props, and inside it, we're going to have a class name, which is going to be string. And let's take the props here inside the component and set its type to the props interface that we have just created. So let's spread the props here inside the main div of the sign in button. And then I go to the app bar and put the sign in button here. Let's save this and go back to our application, and you can see we have a sign in button here. So let's push it all the way to the right of the app bar. So in order to do that, we just need to set the class name, and we just need to set the margin left to auto. Let's go back to our browser, and you can see the sign button is now pushed to the right side of the app bar. Okay, now we are going to implement the functionality of the sign in button. So I go back to VS Code, and here inside the sign in button, we need to specify our scenario. So here's our scenario. When the user is signed in into our application, we need to render the name of the user plus a sign out button. And when the user is not logged in into our application, we just need to render a sign in link. Okay, so how we can determine that if the user is signed in or not? We can do that with the get kind server session. So here inside the component, I'm going to say const an empty object and set it to get kind server session function. Okay, and now we can extract the get user function and also is authenticated function from the return object of the get kind server session. And then here I'm going to say const user and set it to get user function that we've got from the get kind server session function. Okay, and here I'm going to say if is authenticated, which means that if the user is already signing into our application, we need to return the name of the user and also a sign out or log out link. So here I'm going to put the div here, and inside it we first render the name of the user inside a p tag. So here I'm going to say user that given name, and also we want to render a logout link. So the logout link is a ready to use component that we can import from the Kinde Auth next.js/server. So here I'm going to say logout link, and as you can see, it has been imported from the Kinde Auth next.js/server. And then inside it, we pass the sign out text as the caption of the logout link. So to speed up the process again, let me copy and paste the class name for the parent div, and also for the p tag and logout link. Okay, so that's it for our first case, which is when the user is already signing into our application. And our second case is when the user is not signing into our application. So in this case, we just need to render a login link, which again comes from the Kinde Auth next.js/server. So here, instead of rendering this plain div, we just render a login component, which comes from the Kinde Auth next.js/server, and then pass the sign in text as the caption of the login link. Okay, and again, just paste the class name for the login link. So let's save this and go back to our browser, and you can see the user is now not logged in into our application, so the sign-in link will be shown to the user. So if I click on that, we will be redirected to the login page that has been created by the Kinde Auth. So we can customize this login page from the admin panel of the Kinde Auth. So if I go back to the home page, and here inside the design page, and then I go to the sign in, we can kind of customize the login page for our application here in the right panel. So let's go back to our application, and here I just put my email address and click on the login. It will send a verification code into my email account. So I pause the video and go to my email account and grab the verification code there. Okay, I copy the verification code from my email account and then paste it here and click in the continue. And here we go. As you can see, we are now logged in into our application, and you can see my name here plus a sign out button. So if I click on the sign out, I will be sign out from the application. Okay, so in this easy way, we can implement the authentication system with the Kinde Auth in Next.js. We don't need to wrap the whole application inside a provider. We just need to create our endpoint API in the API directory of the app directory, and then anywhere inside our application that we need to check if the user is authenticated or not, we can use the is authenticated function that we can grab from the get Kinde server session. And also we can access to the user profile with the get user function. Okay, so now we are moving to the next section of this tutorial, which is how we can protect some of our pages from the unauthenticated user. So in order to do that, we need to create a middleware inside the source directory. So here, side by side of the app directory, I'm going to create a middleware.ts file. And here inside the middleware file, we just need to import the auth middleware from the Kinde Auth next.js/server. So I'm going to say import an empty object and say from and Kinde OSS/Kinde Auth next.js/server. And then we can grab the auth middleware from that. And we just export default the auth middleware from this middleware file. I'm going to say export default auth middleware. And as you know, in order to specify the pages that we want to apply this middleware for, we can export a config object, const config, and then inside it we can specify a matcher list. And here we can, for example, say that we want to specify the middleware for the /dashboard. So the auth middleware will be applied for the dashboard page, and it will be protected from unauthenticated user. So let's restart our server. As you can see, the user is not signed in here. So if I click on the dashboard, you can see the Next.js doesn't redirect us to the dashboard page, and that's because we are not signed in into our application. So if I sign in with my email account, and then grab the code from my email account, and as you can see, we are now logged in into our application. So if I click on the dashboard this time, you can see we are redirected to the dashboard page because we are authenticated. Okay, but here's a problem here. We want to automatically redirect the unauthenticated user when the user clicks on the protected page. So in order to do that, I go to the env file here and set the logout redirect URL to our web address /API/auth/login. I save this and restart the server. Okay, open up our browser. Let's first sign out from our application. Okay, so now you can see we're not logged in into our application. So if I click on the dashboard, you can see that we are redirected into the login page automatically. So yeah, in this way we can protect our pages from unauthenticated user. But how we can protect our APIs from the unauthenticated user? So here, if I go to the sign page, you can see that we have used the is authenticated function that we've got from the getKind server session function. We can use this is authenticated function in our APIs, and in the first line of our API, we can check if the user is authenticated with this is authenticated function. And if it's not, we can just return a 401 unauthorized response message to the user. That's it. It's just the same. So yeah, I think that's it for this video, and I would be really happy if you suggest the topic of my upcoming videos in the comment section. Thanks for watching. Have a nice time. Bye bye.